the disease of addiction not only affects the person that is suffering from the illness, but it affects the whole family.
Hello everyone, I'm Alli Drew. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to talk about drug and alcohol addiction and some solutions for you or a loved one who may be suffering from the addiction to drugs and alcohol. I have an expert here today. Hello.
Hello, Allison. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
What is your position in the field of drug and alcohol treatment?
I am currently a program director for a treatment center in Woodland Hills, California called Emulate.
And what is your experience with drug and alcohol treatment?
I've been in the treatment industry on and off for over 30 years. I myself am in recovery, so I'm very familiar with what it takes to get sober, stay sober, and live a good life.
Awesome. So you have experience with getting sober yourself?
Yes. This November, I will have 40 years of sobriety.
Congratulations. That's great. So tell me, if somebody is ready to go into treatment, what is the first step that they should do to get help?
Well, the key here is the word ready. You have to be willing and ready to go to any lengths to stop. And usually when people get sick enough is when they make that call to us, or a loved one, a parent, a spouse will call and make arrangements to get their loved one into treatment.
So if somebody isn't ready, what recourse do the family or spouses have?
Yeah, and that happens a lot with the younger kids today. It's very difficult when you're in your teens or early 20s to admit that you have an issue with drugs and alcohol, especially if you have a family that takes care of you. The key here is not to, enable them, for a lack of a better word, to enable them. The parents, unfortunately, they're going to have to do some tough love. And nowadays it's very dangerous because even with the tough love stuff, with the fentanyl and stuff, they can be dead instantly. So it's a decision that the family has to make together. They have to do an intervention. And but the key is being willing and ready. If they're not willing and ready, they're not going to make it in treatment.
What's an example? What will define an intervention?
An intervention is when the family or a person gets together and they tell the individual that you're ruining your life, you're ruining your family. We can't have you doing this anymore. We can't have you here. And your only choice is to go into treatment. You're killing yourself. You're killing your family, because the disease of addiction not only affects the person that is suffering from the illness, but it affects the whole family.
Right.
So when the family finally has enough, that's when they have to do the intervention and try and convince that loved one that they have to go into treatment. It doesn't always work. Sometimes it does. Most of the time it does, but sometimes it doesn't work. They're just not ready.
That's why
I've had them get up and walk out of interventions. So
the alcoholic or addict gets up and walks out.
They're just not ready. And you have to go through enough pain and mental anguish before you're ready. And sometimes they have to beat themselves up a little more before they're ready.
And explain to my viewers what fentanyl is.
Fentanyl is actually an elephant tranquilizer. It's 100 times more potent than regular heroin. It's an epidemic in this country. It's taking out hundreds of kids every day, and people, adults and children, nationwide every day. It's an epidemic, and it's killing people. Very powerful drug. You just need a tiny bit, and if you have too much, you're going to overdose and die.
So it's hard to let go of a loved one knowing that fentanyl is out there.
Right. And, the mindset is, this is not going to happen to me. It's happened to a lot of people I know, but it's not going to happen to me. In fact, what they're doing now is they're having what they call fentanyl parties, where one person is responsible to bring them back. If they die, and they have a person on watch, ready and to bring them back,
to revive
them if they go out at the party. That's that person's sole job, is to watch everybody and make sure that if one stops breathing, then they bring them back with Narcan, with a spray called Narcan. They bring them back.
My goodness. Wow.
Very dangerous.
All right. So say if someone decides to go into treatment on their own, or they're nudged into going into treatment, first of all, who do they call?
They call the treatment center they decide to go to. And the process of that is to do the admission process. You come in, you do the admission, the paperwork, and then you go into detox, depending on how severe your withdrawals are. Most of the time we take care of them in detox. We kind of step them down, which is titration of their drug of choice, whether it be alcohol, benzos, opiates, whatever the case may be.
Does insurance cover detox?
Yeah, most of the insurances cover detox and the residential stay, which is approximately 30 days.
So does it usually take about 30 days for somebody to detox?
Well, the detox period is usually 7 to 10 days. And then the rest of the time they're in residential, which there's going to groups, learning more about their addiction, learning more about how they can identify the triggers that cause addiction, that cause them to drink, that cause them some way, somehow, to turn to substances in the first place. That entails, taking them back. A lot of them have dysfunctional upbringings. They have, and I'm talking about adults. This can hit an adult later on in life as well, where all of a sudden they start remembering things of their past. And the only way they know how to deal with things when you have those thoughts where you don't fit in, you weren't loved, your family didn't care about you, your parents were neglecting you, your parents fought in front of you all the time. We have people that come in that have been verbally abused, sexually abused, and the only way they know how to deal with this in life is turning to substances to escape those thoughts.
So can it be something that's currently going on in their life as well?
Oh, absolutely. It can be a divorce. It can be a death. It can be money issues. There's a lot of things that will have them turn to substances in order to not think about it, to escape. And the process of addiction is a twofold disease, which is the obsession of the mind, allergy of the body. So if you're afflicted with the disease by either predisposition, which means a family member passed it on to you, or you have the gene somehow, it can skip generations. It can hit the parents, or it can hit the grandparents and miss the parents, but you will pick that up, which is the predisposition. So when an alcoholic has that gene, that predisposition of the disease, their thought patterns are not the same as normal people that don't have this issue.
Right.
They tend to magnify things. They tend to catastrophize things. And then when you encompass that with a dysfunctional upbringing, they become pretty messed up. And the only way they know how to deal is with substances. Once they get that substance in their body, it makes them feel like, where were you all my life? You're my savior. And that feeling is so good that they do it over and over and over. And the next thing, they can't live life without it. Their life spiral out of control. They lose everything. The families don't want to speak to them anymore. They've burned every bridge there is to burn. And that's what we do in treatment. After we titrate them down off their withdrawal, we put them into groups. We have them meet with case managers and counselors to kind of get that out of what is the core, because it's not the substances that does the damage. It's what happens when you consume the substances. Your thought pattern, your decision making, everything is affected, and it gets to the point where you usually end up in jail, prison, or nowadays the graveyard. I mean, with this fentanyl, we try to drill down, find out what the key issues are. What are these triggers that cause them to want to turn to substances? And then we try to, on that, we take them on and do therapy with them. We do groups with them. We do one-on-one counseling, one-on-one therapy to get them to get it out, and excuse me, sometimes it takes more than 30 days. That's why we have aftercare programs, PHP, IOP programs, so that they can continue learning and getting treatment for their substance abuse well after the detox residential process, which is the 30 days. But we try to peel the onion back while we have them in detox residential, but there's just unfortunately not enough time. Insurance doesn't cover much of that. And there's just not enough time to really deal with the hardcore issues that have them turn to substances.
Sure. So during that time, that 30 days or more, do you put them in AA meetings as well?
Yes. The facilities I'm involved with are all 12-step. I believe that's the key to staying sober. That's my opinion. That's just me.
What if people are resistant to AA and the spiritual aspect?
Well, the spiritual aspect is the foundation for not only AA, but for a person to be able to deal with their issues on a spiritual level. And it doesn't matter if they don't believe in God, they don't believe, we've had atheists and agnostics, but you have to grab onto something of a power greater than yourself that you believe in, that help you, whether it's the universe, the sun, a tree, whatever it is. It's got to be a power greater than yourself. That is the foundation that you have to lay before you begin to get sober.
So you'll put them in Alcoholics Anonymous or a 12-step meeting, even though many of them may have tried AA and said, "Oh, that doesn't work for me." You'll still have them go to AA meetings. We really push it because there's a reason they're there more than one time into treatment. Did not going to meetings or going to meetings really cause them to relapse? Or was it an underlying issue that they need to deal with more this time around in treatment to prevent relapsing again? So, and usually I've had them come through where they were totally resistant to AA. And by the time we're finished with them with a detox residential and they go to our PHP IOP program, we're able to sort of open their eyes to really what is it that you need to stay sober. And it's done by the 12 steps. And we teach those 12 steps, the meaning, the underlying issues, everything involved with it. There are some
that will just go along with it. They don't believe in the steps, but that's where the one-on-one therapy comes in, and the case management comes in with the therapists and the case managers to figure out what it is you really need. If you don't believe in God, or you don't want a higher power or whatever, what it is that you need to grab onto to stay sober, whether it's sports, exercising, something. But you have to be very careful with addicts because they can substitute one addiction for another very easily.
Right.
So, if they find something they're passionate about, art, working out, exercise, that's what they'll do 8 hours a day. And that's not living life either.
Right.
So
during the first phase, they're detoxing, they're getting one-on-one therapy, they're doing group therapy, some AA meetings, and then they graduate to what?
when they leave, that we give them a certificate of completion. By then they have been tapered off their medication. Some of them may be on some medication that helps them with depression, some anxiety, or both. The depression and anxiety is intertwined with addiction. We have found out over the years that, back in the day, the recidivism with people coming in and out of treatment, a doctor in New York finally took a look at this and said, why are these people relapsing? And when they did the study, they found out that there was anxiety, depression, PTSD, things like that they weren't being treated for. They were only being treated for the substance and not the underlying issues.
They were self-medicating.
Self-medicating,
right?
Yeah.
I heard that.
So once they finish, they graduate from us. We do our best to try to convince them to go into a 30, 60, 90-day aftercare program, because that's where the intense outpatient therapy and stuff really starts to take place. That's when their minds start clearing. That's when they start feeling better, and they're more susceptible to learn. Once their mind clears, and they become a little bit more willing at that point too. Mm-hmm. So that's the opportunity we have at our treatment center, is to really try to save their lives, is at that point. We try to convince them that, obviously what they've done in the past didn't work out too well for them. So we try to send them down another path that is more spiritual, productive, and just showing them basically how to live life on life's terms. Let's deal with these issues that you're burying. Let's deal with these dysfunctional upbringings. Let's deal with this post-traumatic stress disorder you have. Let's deal with this grief. Let's deal with the spousal abuse, whatever the case may be.
Right. So where are they living at that point?
Once they leave the detox residential, which is an inpatient, they live there, then we have a sober living house, or we can put them in a sober living house, is where they stay when they're not in treatment. We usually go 6 hours a day, and maybe sometimes a little more during groups. We have, 4 hour-and-a-half groups a day, led by group facilitators, led by AMFTs, led by therapists. And they go to the groups, they have a lunch break, and then they finish the day. And then during that time, the therapist will pull them out of group and do the one-on-one with them. So they're constantly being educated or having therapy done. So,
and does insurance pay for that as well?
Yes. Once they agree to pay for your residential treatment, detox residential, then most of the time, there are exceptions, but most of the time they will pay for your aftercare program as well.
Okay.
The insurance companies are starting to be aware of the fact that it's saving them money to put these people in an aftercare program rather than having them relapse over and over and over again.
Right.
So And our facility, we're very lucky because we have a very high success rate with the clients that have come through with us. We're very fortunate.
Do you get people from out of state?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we get them from all over the country. Yeah, every state. I've had people in treatment from Europe come over from Europe. So it just depends. But most of the time they're from within the United States.
And when they go into that first treatment where they're detoxing, is there medical intervention? There's doctors helping them?
Yes, we have a doctor and a nurse on staff at all times, especially during the detox process, because that can be very dangerous. You have to have a medical staff there to make it comfortable for you, not detox you too slow or too fast. So it's got to be. It's an art that only doctors and nurses and things like that know how to do. They have to take your blood pressure all the time. They have to check to see where your withdrawal symptoms are on a scale.
Mm-hmm.
They have to take your blood pressure. This is ongoing, around the clock just about, except for, in times when they're sleeping, we let them sleep because that's how they mend.
Right.
So to speak. But when they're in our detox facility, they're constantly monitored by a medical staff, constantly.
So it's a comfortable detox process, correct?
Yes. For example, if their addiction is opiates and they come down, they start to detox, then we give them Suboxone or Subutex, which is a non-narcotic receptor blocker. So it eases those receptors that cry out for more drugs in your brain. It eases those receptors as you taper down little by little by little. The same with alcohol. Alcohol and benzodiazepines, when people come in addicted to those are a really special watch because those are the only two things you can actually die from the withdrawals.
Wow.
Alcohol use and benzo use, you can actually die through those types of withdrawals if they're not monitored by a doctor or a nurse. So don't ever try to detox yourself off alcohol or benzos if you're listening, because you could die from that very easily.
Okay. Good information. So after that aftercare, which is, you said that it's 90 days, about 90 days.
About 90 days.
Then where do they go?
Well, during this time, we also prepare them for their discharge, and their therapist and their case managers will develop a discharge plan for them so that they're not just put out on the street, so to speak, when they're finished, whether that be helping find them a job, help find them housing, some sober livings that they can stay in, get a job, and kind of just ease them back out into society, because, most of them have never faced the real world without being under the influence of something. So this is like being dropped out in the middle of a new city that you don't know anything about. So,
right.
And you have to, that's when the rubber meets the road. That's when you really have to apply what you've learned in treatment as far as your coping skills. You have to have a sponsor, make calls to your sponsor, go to meetings. You have to, at that point, really be willing to do what we call whatever it takes to stay sober, whatever it takes. I mean, the alternative is your life. So, it's a very simple program, but it's not easy because you have to work at it.
Right.
You have to work, but all good things that come to you are from hard work. So you might as well give your life some work too.
Sure. Right? Sure. And what happens, how successful is your program? Or?
Well, like I said, we have a very high success rate because we usually put them in facilities that are close by us so that we can keep in contact with them. We have meetings, AA meetings at our facility, a couple of times a week where they can come and be back with everybody. Like it's almost like a
like a
meeting,
family
like a
reunion.
big family gathering, family reunion, and we get input how they're doing. Do they need any more help? Is everything going well? So it's a chance for us to, we call them our alumni. So it's a chance for us to kind of stay in touch with them. And the thing about our treatment centers it doesn't matter, how long ago you went through our treatment. If you have an issue and you feel like you're regressing, you can call us. You can call our therapist. You can call me. You can call, people that you've worked with in our facility that you're close to. So, and we call that a tune-up. So you can always, and if you need to, you can come back for a couple of weeks and get that tune-up and leave and be ready to go again. And it's better than relapsing. So
You're the alcoholic or the addict is going through all of this. Now, what about the family members and the spouses? What are they doing in the meantime?
Well, a lot of times, some of the families don't even know they're in treatment. They've been out on the streets. They've been, sleeping on people's couches. They've been, the families have closed the door. In other words, like, we can't allow you to destroy the family. We can't allow you to destroy your brothers and sisters' lives. We can't allow you to destroy our lives anymore. So you have to go. And that happens a lot. And we have to, try our best to get family counseling sessions going. Sometimes the families, especially if the person has been through treatment 3 or 4 times and made those endless promises that I'm never going to do this again, only to do it again and again, the families are burned out, so, but we still try to, and usually one of the parents, whether it be the mother or the father, will join in on a family session. I've had parents join in on the family sessions where the one spouse doesn't know the other spouse is doing it, so, and it's usually the mothers that do that because, mothers, they love their children and they don't want to see anything bad happen to them. And being a father, I totally understand that.
So it is, do you offer any support for the families?
Yes, we do. We do some therapy with them. If they want to, we do some family therapy with them. We refer them to different programs, like Al-Anon is a very good program for families that have an individual in their family suffering from addiction. Al-Anon,
does insurance pay for what is it called?
Al-Anon. No, and you don't need insurance for Al-Anon. It's a free 12-step program like AA. You can attend meetings every night. So we encourage that with the families because, most of the time the families don't understand addiction. They think their child is deliberately doing this, that they can stop anytime they want, that you're a bad person and you have bad character defects and, you're just undisciplined. They don't understand how this addiction grabs you. They don't get it, especially if the parents have never been through this before. So all they know is that it's destroying the family and they can't allow it. But we try to teach them through counseling and through Al-Anon how to kind of understand what's going on with your loved one. And most of all, how to take your own life back. How you need to take your life back, because most of the times the families are sick too. They have major issues. They have anxiety, depression, PTSD, all the things that they would have never probably normally not had not been for an addictive person in their family. So,
where do they go to find this program, this Al-Anon?
You can look it up online where you live. There's meetings close by, just all over the United States, just driving distance away, close. And it's a 12-step program, much like AA.
Really? I
Yeah,
can put the information in the description box for my viewers.
that would be great, because I'm sure a lot of your viewers are either going through it on the addiction side or going through it on the other side. So, but I'm here to tell you that there is life after recovery. And these meetings really help you. I happen to attend both of them. I'm what you call a double winner, because I had a very dysfunctional upbringing. Um, but the steps on AA are great. You have to work those steps, build your spiritual foundation to stay sober. Al-Anon is the same deal, but it almost allows you to drill down a little deeper and deal with maybe not only the things that you have to deal with your loved one, but maybe it kind of resurfaces the thoughts that maybe you had some issues yourself growing up. And that has happened quite a few times, where we're counseling the parents on the process of addiction with their child, and they realize that, what, I should be going to Al-Anon because I had issues with my parents. So we call that the miracle of the program. But life in recovery, life after addiction, I call it, is so wonderful. I mean, you can't even begin to understand. I am so grateful, and I know people don't understand this. I'm so grateful to be in recovery, and I am so grateful to had the disease of alcoholism, and so badly that there was no doubt in my mind when I went into the program that I was an alcoholic. I had it so bad that there was no doubt in my mind. I had no choice. It was either stop or die. And I was on the alcohol. I was on what I call the Diet Coke program. That's all I consumed, is Diet Coke, which is a diet thanks to cocaine. I call it the Diet Coke diet. And I was very sick. And there was no doubt in my mind that I needed to go into recovery. I didn't want to be there when I first got there. I was hoping I could magically recover on my own. I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to be anywhere.
Please subscribe to this channel. I hope you all enjoyed watching this, and I'm going to also leave the information for the facility that Joe is a part of. He's very warm and welcoming, and he will help you or your loved one get sober. So,
and if you have any questions about anything with regards to a loved one or yourself or a friend, please don't hesitate to call me. I'll help you out any way I can.
Yeah. He really wants to help. We both want to help people. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for more videos. And that's it. Thank you.